A lot of people are struggling to choose between generative AI and the more traditional AI, or say analytical or predictive AI. But the real value is when you combine the strengths of both. In this video, I will show you 5 ways to do just that. Hi, I'm Rahim. I'm an AI expert with more than 15 years of experience. I'm an author of 3 books on AI and machine learning, and I'm a corporate trainer for Fortune 500 and DAX companies. And in this video, I will share you insights which are coming from deep experience in the field, and I'm happy to share this with you. Let's get started. Now, both generative AI and traditional AI or analytical AI have their own strengths. And of course, often it is difficult to choose between them. And most people default to using generative AI, particularly the companies which are adopting it now. But the real value is in combining them both. But we should know first what their strengths really are and which tasks are both of these better at. So let's understand what each style is good at first. Let's talk of Gen AI. And Gen AI, generative AI, is good at generation. So it is about generation of content, it is creating something, it is about, say, recommending things, and so on. It's really good at generation in general of, say, whether it's text or images or even videos now. Then it is also extremely good at conversational search and chatbots. We have seen this, all of us. It's super performance in chat, and it really makes conversation which is indistinguishable from human as well. So this is a really good application. Within documents, within your knowledge base, within your text, and even files, generative AI is really good at finding things and then synthesizing those things and perhaps summarizing and extracting information from your knowledge base. This is another very good application. And for coding, of course, it is extremely good at coding various kinds of languages. It is really good at assisting developers in various tasks across the software development lifecycle. And of course, because of its smartness and now that we have given it tools and AI agents, it is also pretty good at automating workflows. So Gen AI has quite a good lot of strengths. And this image which you see on the screen, by the way, has also been generated using Gen AI. So pretty neat, yes? Now, let's take a look at the strengths of traditional AI or the analytical or predictive AI. And of course, it is really good at classifying things. So whether this email is spam or not, whether this transaction is going to be fraud or not, whether this customer will default on the loan or not. So these classification things are where these models really excel. Then it also is really good at predicting numbers. So tasks which we call regression tasks. What will be the, say, purchase value of this particular order, or what will be the revenue based on these factors and so on. So again, a lot of these numerical prediction tasks, traditional AI is really good. Forecasting. So forecasting the weather, forecasting revenue, forecasting the temperature. There's so many things you might want to forecast. Of time series forecasting, again, traditional AI does really well in these applications. And another good application area is clustering or segmentation, where if you have, let's say, a very high number of customers, how do you create these few groups of customers, which are similar to each other? And then it becomes much more manageable. So customer segmentation is another application area of traditional or classical AI, so to say. And survival analysis is another good example, where you keep seeing, based on the time and based on so many factors, what are the chances of this patient survival or this, say, machine's failure, and so on. So there are a lot of applications in which traditional AI really excels. And now that we understand the strengths of traditional AI and the strengths of generative AI, we need to now see a few ways of combining their strengths. So how do you really put them together in an application to get business value, right? So let's take a look at a few examples, 5 precisely, and let's see how we can benefit in each of them. So exhibit number 1, managing customer churn. Customer churn is when a customer drops off a platform, whether it's a telecom company or an online shopping platform or a meditation app. You had a customer who was regular, and now the customer is just disengaged and perhaps might just drop off. So how do you predict that, and what can you do? or how can you take action? That's what customer churn management is about. And traditionally, we have been using more traditional AI models for this quite a lot. We have used different kinds of classification or churn models to just identify whether the customer will say, drop off or not. But we don't have to limit to just that. In fact, we can use a good combination. So the first part, we use traditional AI to analyze all the historical data to say, calculate the probability of a customer churning or not. That's the first part. And then not just that, we can use traditional AI techniques to even provide some explanations in a way or contributions. So why does the model think that this customer will default, or why does the model think this customer will churn, for example, right? These explanation techniques can also be used. And using the model predictions and these say contributions or score explanations, you have quite a lot of rich information about the customer's behavior. Now, this information can be fed to the generative model. And the generative model, as we saw earlier, can very nicely synthesize information, a lot of textual data, perhaps different kind of numerical data as well, to provide you insights. And now, any stakeholder or yourself, you can connect your chatbot to this data. You can now start talking to the data, start understanding this data. What are the best factors, or what patterns do you see over there, or in fact, why not just this? You can generate insights using your natural language. You can ask it questions, get answers, and you could even say give a few commands, and with the right setting, you can even generate reports. You can even generate BI dashboards with just a few commands perhaps, or a bit of a conversation with the AI system. So in this case, you're not only making a model here, but when you combine the power of traditional AI along with generative AI, you're essentially able to identify things, identify patterns. Also, without a lot of barrier, all the stakeholders are able to analyze this rich data and come up with actions and perhaps create reports and whatnot. So better decision making. This is a great example of how these things come together. Let's look at another example. Exhibit 2 is personalized marketing. And marketing, of course, is a big topic, and managing different customers, their expectations, and in fact, finding the right messaging for each customer base is really difficult. And historically, we have been using traditional AI very heavily for this. So instead of looking at each customer, what you do is you divide the customer base, which could be hundreds of thousands of people. You divide this customer base into a few segments, say 5 or 6 or some manageable segments. And you believe that, or you can see that each segment has a particular behavior, right? So you identify 4 or 5 or 6 types of segments over here. Now, traditional AI is really good at this. So not only can it create these segments, but it can also generate some, numerical summaries on this, that this segment has so-and-so values and it is high in purchase value, low in this, and so on. So this again becomes rich information, and this information can then again be fed into a generative AI system where, first of all, the segments can be described really well, the patterns can be analyzed, and numerical summaries can be analyzed really well, so that the generative AI system can develop a summary and explanation of these segments for the stakeholders. So with the summary that the Gen AI system creates, this is much more understandable, much more interpretable for the stakeholders, who can then take strategies for each of the segments. Now, after you identified or understood the segments, you need to create the campaigns, understand the messaging that you need to create a different, not just create the campaigns, but we also mean that create the various assets for the marketing, right? So you can create, say, text copies, you could create images for the campaign, depending on what each segment would like. You can even create videos now with the kind of tools that we have already. So in this case as well, you could use a traditional AI, but you don't stop there. You can go one step further when you leverage the power of generative AI. And now you don't have just the segmentation. You can think of a good chunk of the marketing pipeline, which is taken care of when you use traditional and generative AI. That's the second example. Let's look at exhibit number 3. This is an example from manufacturing where you would like to look at images perhaps or video feeds and identify a defect in the machinery and parts and so on. This is a very classic example of say computer vision application where your computer system looks at images again and again, or videos are also images. So and then whenever it says, okay, there's a defect here, maybe it identifies a defect, right? And while this kind of stuff works in general really well for defects which are commonly observed, however, for rare defects, this is not so easy because the model hasn't seen them before and the data is not there. So the traditional part can work as is. It can work really well because we do have traditional models like CNNs, convolutional neural networks, which are really good at extracting information or learning features. And then these are generally high accuracy models, and we have optimized them quite a bit, so they are relatively low latency, which means that you get predictions really quick. This is really good. But when something rare happens, that's when the power of Gen AI can also come to the fore. So in addition to the prediction model using the traditional AI, you can have a parallel system which is doing monitoring and identifying some anomalies or looking for outliers. Now, when this Gen AI model finds an outlier, you know something new has come, right? And then maybe this is a new kind of defect that you need to account for. But of course, the traditional AI model needs a lot of data to update itself. And here is where another important, or say very good feature of generative AI models comes to play. Generative AI can create synthetic data or synthetic images which look very similar to the kind of defect you have. In that way, instead of having just 2 pictures, now you can have, say, 2,000 pictures of this defect, and then you can feed this to the traditional model. And now the traditional model can be updated to now handle this rare defect as well. So in a way, with this kind of a loop, the system is far more robust and adaptive so that the newer defects which keep coming up, it can identify them and update the model and maintain high performance in the system. Exhibit number 4, video analysis. Of course, this is a very increasingly important use case now. A lot of content is in videos, a lot of marketing activities happens in videos, or information extraction happening from videos and so on. And again, we did have traditional AI models doing this quite a lot. We have models going through frames of the videos, extracting things like, okay, is there an object here? Is there a person here? Is there a brand logo there? Is there text over here? If yes, extract the text. So all of this is being done by traditional AI quite a bit, right? But now you have gone one step further with generative AI. I'm not sure if you have tried it out. I hope you have tried out Google LM or other Google, say, models, where you can just put in a link to a YouTube video and you can analyze the YouTube video very quickly. And Google can even analyze the video parts, video frames over there, right? In fact, the newer models of Google are multimodal, and you can put in a full video and get information from it. So the new models are really good at analyzing video. But what we can do is make an overall system which is far more powerful by taking the features from the traditional AI and then take all those insights plus this model, and then you can provide some sort of an excellent, say, conversational experience to the marketing team, perhaps, like what's really going on, ask questions about the video. Not just that, you can, say, extract things from it, generate listings perhaps, or you can, say, take all that information from there and create new articles out of it, right? And content and so on. So textual content from video content. So again, this is a great example where generative AI and traditional AI together can combine and become much more powerful than any of them individually. So let's look at the next exhibit, where you have text plus tabular data classification, or maybe even image classification here. So let's take a multimodal example where you have multiple types of data. And now generative AI can be used first this time instead of traditional AI. And how you flip this is that the generative AI models can analyze the text, analyze the images, analyze the videos, and extract a lot of information from it, know what something is present or not, and so on. So it can generate lot of features. You now have multimodal models, which essentially can handle all kinds of data. So you can extract key information, you can summarize a text, identify features from images and so on, or even tabular data, right? You can take those along with the tabular data and then feed that into a traditional AI model. And this traditional AI model now does not need to handle all the different kind of text and audio and so on, right? All that has been done by the Gen AI model. All the rich information is available to this traditional AI model, perhaps as a long table. And then this can handle tabular data extremely well. And this model can now give you a very high accuracy, a very quick, say low latency, high performance model, which is capable of now taking, overall, the system is capable of handling videos as well as text as well as images. So again, combining generative AI and traditional AI, you're playing on the strengths of both and you're making something much more powerful. So the summary over here is that each type of AI has its strength, of course, and we do not need to choose one. This is not a dichotomy. In fact, these two complement each other really very well. And if you are smart in using these technologies, these paradigms accordingly, then you can deliver maximum impact from them. So that was it for this video. I'll see you in the next one.